But let's talk about the fight that is the marquee fight of the weekend. Was Artur Beterbiev defeating Oleksandr Gvozdyk in absolutely fantastic fashion, competitive fashion throughout, fun fight. Probably not going to be a fight of the year contender, but 100% going to be a fight that we probably talk about at the end of the year as one of the better fights that we saw. One of the better matchups on paper that then delivered as we expected. But Rob, before me and Gary give our takes on the fight, you were the only one to technically pick the right winner here in Artur Beterbiev. So obviously, give me your thoughts on his performance, which is probably a breakout performance, arguably.
Yeah, no, I just felt that Beterbiev, his pressure would possibly just end up tallying at some point, you know. And I think I mentioned it. He's been knocked down a few times, but he gets up and just keeps coming. And I just felt maybe I wasn't quite as high on his Gvozdyk's boxing abilities as maybe you guys were a little bit. And I felt the pressure would tell. And I think I did say, because you were like, what a decision? And I thought about it and went, no, probably a late TKO. So I should have backed it with the bookies, but never mind. But yeah, no, shout out to Beterbiev. I thought, I mean, it was competitive up until the stoppage. I felt Gvozdyk was like still in the fight. It wasn't like it was gone or anything, or that Beterbiev needed to really swing for the fences because he was so down on the cards. I thought it was competitive throughout, and eventually it told. And I don't want to hear people saying Gvozdyk quit. I've been seeing people saying he quit. Didn't Max Kellerman say he quit as well and stuff like that? Took a knee or whatever. Oh, come on. You know,
he was getting beat up.
The kind of time we've had in boxing just recently, you know, I don't think anyone needs to hear a so-called expert or people that whatever saying that someone's a quitter in the ring like that. I think that was a poor,
especially after 9 or 10 rounds of hard boxing and fighting. It just
so yeah. For me, didn't quit. I just think Beterbiev has showed that his power's real, his pressure's real, and he's a problem for everybody in the division.
And to that point, very quickly, because it's not a real topic, but to the point of, you know, him quitting and that's just bullshit. He was in the hospital for a couple of days after the fight. Like, let's stop that narrative, honestly, that he quit. Yeah. Like the only real person you can say quit a boxing fight was what's his name against Agabi, who just stepped out of the ring before the fight even started. Like that is a textbook definition of he quit.
And that was more a protest than quitting. Yeah. That was like to do with money, right?
Yeah, but if you're getting there getting hit with punches and you're just like, look, I don't want to get hit with these punches anymore, there's no shame in that. Live to fight another day. Don't get more brain damage for no reason.
I got one. Bruce Seldon versus Mike Tyson. He never really got hit by a punch.
He got in the ring.
I remember that fight. He went in the ring and then immediately took a phantom leap on the ground because that dude in the black trunks looks a little scary.
Yeah, the draft off that first shot. Fuck that. That draft hurt. I'm going down.
I just quickly, just to sort of speed up, I will disagree with your point about Gvozdyk's boxing ability not being what we thought it was. I think his boxing ability was absolutely what we thought it was. It showed in the fight. The one thing that clearly wasn't there was the power. The power to really get Beterbiev's respect was not there. And I think that was the key factor because he was outboxing, I would say, Artur Beterbiev largely so. Obviously, you know, I talked about it on yesterday's show about his Beterbiev's boxing ability far better than what we thought, but I do think that Gvozdyk outboxed him. He just didn't have the power to hurt him and to really get that respect.
Like if there's a come forward pressure fighter, if you've got some power to make them just think twice, you know,
hesitate, just
like
slight hesitation.
Canelo going forwards to Triple G in the second fight, you know, when did we see that? And then Triple G backing up and trying to box on the back foot, you know. So when you can get respect the other way, then that can slightly nullify the big pressure for, you know, come forward guy that's trying to land bombs and hurt you. So yeah, I think Gvozdyk, maybe you're right. Maybe it isn't necessarily his boxing ability wasn't there, or it wasn't as high as you guys maybe said, but it was more he couldn't get Beterbiev's respect so much. So, and I just felt watching the fight, it's a matter of, as the more it went on, it's a matter of time before Beterbiev lands something really telling. But it was a great fight, like you say, maybe not, full excited like crazy fight of the year, but should be in the mentions for sure.
Definitely probably going to be in that top 15ish range.
Yeah, it would be like honorable mentions at the end of the year, sort of MCR show probably or something like that.
Absolutely. Gary, your thoughts on the X's and O's of the performance of Beterbiev and Gvozdyk? Gary froze up.
First, let's give Rob credit. He went out on a limb.
That's true. Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now. We hear you. Gary, we hear you.
So kudos to Rob. Yeah, I didn't change my mind at all. I still think Gvozdyk is an excellent boxer. The only thing that changed my mind was how good Beterbiev is. Like, I thought he was one-dimensional. I thought he was too flat-footed. I think Gvozdyk's power is proven, right? Like, he knocked out Baker. He knocked out Stevenson. He knocked out Chilemba. He's knocked everybody out. Well, I guess Chilemba retired on his stool, right? But the other guys he's knocked out and knocked him out cold. So his power is legitimate. I just think that maybe Beterbiev's got a Triple G chin where it's like bulletproof. Nothing's changed my mind on Gvozdyk. I still think Gvozdyk is an excellent boxer. I still think he's the second best guy in the division.
We're gonna get to that. Don't worry. We're gonna get to that.
I'm ready.
It's like the Ramirez Hooker fight. Like, my opinion on Hooker didn't change, but just my opinion on Ramirez changed, and my opinion on Beterbiev changed. I think he's a lot better than at least I previously thought he was.
I do like that framing of like not to when you see these two champions in whatever case fight and one loses, and then let's say the winner shows new wrinkles to the game. That's more obviously to the side of, wow, we now should have a different opinion of the person winning. The person that lost, maybe the opinion shouldn't change. Maybe we just undervalued and underrated the person that ended up winning. For example, Ramirez Hooker, in this case, Beterbiev Gvozdyk. I think that's a really good comparison and a good way of looking at it. But obviously, I think the talk now going forward is that what's next, right? We're going to get a Bivol Beterbiev unification, right? At some point in next year. Let me get to the exact. Bob Arum was talking to the media. We're getting this from Michael Benson, but I saw several interviews of him talking about this, plus Boxing Scene article, etc. Bob Arum has told media that he plans to take Eddie Hearn up on his offer and make Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol on ESPN. First, Beterbiev must face IBF mandatory China's Meng Fanlong. They have an offer to do it in Henan, Chinese island, around Chinese New Year. So, guys, thoughts on the upcoming undisputed unification. Sorry, there's so Kovalev spelled out there. Soon to be Canelos, possibly. But thoughts on the upcoming unification that most likely is happening summertime of 2020. Bivol Beterbiev. Rob, your thoughts?
I mean, I stand by my Bivol thing. But now I would say,
well, for those that maybe don't know what that is,
me and Gary were of the opinion that Bivol is the best light heavyweight in the division. But mine was more, I think he can beat anyone in the division. Not
he will.
Like he's 100%, odds-on favorite against everyone he steps in the ring with. So I feel he can win it, but I think seeing Beterbiev do that with Gvozdyk, I feel Bivol's chances have just declined a bit.
It's closer. It's a much closer fight than the Bivol fans or truthers.
I mean, I would see this might sound strange, but with his power and everything like that, and coming through that fight and unifying, I'm sure Beterbiev would go favorite in that fight. I would say so, that Bivol would maybe be the underdog, which I'm not sure. Yeah, it'd be close. I think it'd be tight. I think it'd be tight betting lines.
You would see like minus 150 and like plus like 180 odds.
Yeah, around that, something like that, or someone might even close even money or whatever.
Not an outright 2-1, but close to a 2-1 odds.
Yeah. But you know, I want to see the fight. You know, I mean, skip me with the mandatory if possible, but obviously they come for a reason and they happen and whatever. But you know, and Bivol over on ESPN for the unification with Beterbiev. That's no surprise. Bivol, we know now, is a network free agent. I know he's co-promoted by Eddie, but he's a network free agent. So anything to make that fight easier to make, and then great. You know, we get another unification. And for a while, I feel now these guys are fighting each other. This is a really good division. I know, again, top heavy. But yeah, now they're fighting each other. You know, sign me up. I'm all in. You know, I want to see these fights. So yeah, I'd be interested in your thoughts, like Gvozdyk, Beterbiev, if there was how if they fought each other 10 times.
I think Gvozdyk will win a couple. I do think he was outboxing Beterbiev for large portions of the fight. But Beterbiev, I mean, he beat him in the amateurs, beat him in the pros. Like maybe there's just a clear he has his number situation here, which it happens. Gary, and I'll get back to you, Rob, because you really didn't make a preliminary pick on the fight. You kind of sat on the fence there, a la Fugatti. I'm not going to hold you to this pick, gentlemen, because obviously the fight's maybe going to happen in 9 months, a year. But Gary, preliminary thoughts and pick of a Beterbiev-Bivol unification on ESPN.
Yeah, I sat here last week and said that I thought Bivol was the best 175-pounder.
Yes.
I still think that his skills may say that he's the best, but there's no way that he can stop the onslaught of Beterbiev. He's too small and he doesn't have the power. So I'm going to change my mind on that. If Gvozdyk didn't have the power to keep Beterbiev off of him, there's no way that Bivol does. So, Bivol may have some success. He may win rounds, but you're going to see him getting broken down over time. And I don't see how Beterbiev doesn't stop him. But unless Bivol really went on his bicycle and just tried to run out the clock, which I don't see him doing, I don't see how he lasts all 12 rounds. He's too small and he doesn't have the power to keep him off. So as skilled as I think Bivol is, I think me and Rob agree on his skills. A, he's fighting in the wrong weight class, and B, he doesn't have the power to keep him off. So I would go with Beterbiev by late knockout.
Can we get a consensus on how we're saying?
No.
Nope.
I just can't see a Russian guy being called Beterbiev.
It's better. Beterbiev just
is very Russian sounding.
It is. Artur Beterbiev.
Beterbiev.
But I'm trying to think of another fighter who's like this, that like we all started calling him this name, so like it just stuck, even though it's wrong. Like it's a wrong pronunciation. That happens actually quite frequently. It's unfortunate, but
name redacted calls Errol Spence Earl to this day.
I mean that's okay. I think like that. I've seen worse.
It's not his name, but
exactly. Right. Ottawa Varlin.
Otto Whalen.
Also turned into Ottawa Jones III as well, by the way. Just saying.
People calling Otha Jones Otto now? Is that
Ottawa, as in
Ottawa? like the province of Canada?
Yes.
Yes.
Along with Varlin as well. His name is Ottawa as well.
And look, if anyone's listening to the show right now that's new, I'm sorry if we butcher pronunciations of names. Sorry.
No, no one triggered me to say it. I'm just, for me, hearing Beterbiev.
Beterbiev. I'll try better now. I'm sorry. Beterbiev. Yeah.
No, I'm not, right? Because I said Beterbiev. Everyone on HBO said Beterbiev. Like, you should have fixed it then, right? Like, I'm sticking. I can't change now. Like, I'm a creature of habit. Like
it's like the whole Gennady with an I thing now. I fucking hate that. And like Vasily, like that used to really bug me. How like it's now changed to double I, right? But that honestly doesn't bug me anymore because I just put them both in the tags now. But Gennady really bugs me because it's legit only like a few people that use that, and it's like big time reporters, and no one else uses that spelling anymore still or at all with the Gennady with an I. Anyways, digressing from this long tangent.
I was going to say, speaking of the telecast, did you see on about Vasily? He's apparently not lost.
Right.
The graphic came up 14-0. Lomachenko's 14-0.
Oh yeah.
That's why the fight didn't happen.
That's not a mistake. That's propaganda by ESPN.
Yeah, and a lot of people getting their panties in a bunch about Tank not being on the current champions pound for pound knockout percentage. Newsflash: Gervonta Davis isn't currently a champion, so that's why he wasn't on the list. Relax.
He vacated that belt? Yeah, he did. He has already. Yeah,
because Leo's fighting for it now.
Leo's going to fight for it, and then I don't know if we're going to get to it, but Tank's up for fighting Leo.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. Don't worry. Right. We have a lot to get to, but oh my god, it's gonna be one of those shows.
I'm thinking about that one now, just so I can try.
But quickly, I want to sort of bring it back just a little bit to these intermediate fights between the Beterbiev Bivol unification, Fanlong Meng or Meng Fanlong, however, whichever way you switch it, because Chinese names switch often. Zhu Shan, Kanju, for example. Beterbiev fighting Meng, who I think is a really underrated sort of prospect contender in the light heavyweight division. And Bivol has now come out, and I know the UK fans or listeners of this show might like this fight or might think that he's chewing off more than he can chew. But Dimitri Bivol says he has no issue facing Joshua Buatsi in the UK. And I gotta say, Rob, if we get a world where the in-between fights are Fanlong Meng and Joshua Buatsi, and then we get a unification for the winners of those two fights, I'm extremely happy. So, overall thoughts on Bivol. Oh, did not mean to hit that.
Oh my god!
Sorry. Thoughts on Bivol Buatsi possibility, and on top of that, even the Beterbiev Fanlong Meng fight in China, a market that we know Bob Arum has been trying to break into for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Look, Buatsi's built himself into a position with the WBA. But I can't help thinking it might just be a shade too soon. Maybe one more fight, maybe even two, before Buatsi gets in with the Bivol.
Now, you're talking about from a pure competitive standpoint, and I agree with you. Now, from a real-world situation, do you think this fight actually happened regardless of maybe him actually needing that in-between fight?
I don't know that it happens. I don't think Eddie's going to put Buatsi in with Bivol just yet. Sure. I don't think, personally. And quite rightly, too, in my opinion.
No, like I said, I even though we have the Yard situation where he actually put on a great performance against Kovalev and his stock rose and lost.
Yeah, for a round.
No, he fought very well for the rest of the fight, I would say. But digress from that, that's not a normal thing. Untested prospect fighting an elite champion and then rising to the occasion is not the norm. Usually they take an L and they bounce back and they rebound, they rebuild their career, and they come back into the elite fold. But Gary, your thoughts on a Bivol Buatsi fight, the possibility of it, just your overall thoughts on it, and obviously Beterbiev Meng in China as well.
Those aren't the worst mandatories in the world. You get through those, and then we get the fight we want. Like Bivol Buatsi.
For Buatsi's not mandatory. Just want to make that clear.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Okay. I'll still take the fight, right? Yes. Like, I mean, he's not going to... Buatsi is a good... I guess you would still call him a prospect at this point in his career. I mean, he hasn't done a whole lot to deserve a title shot, but, I mean, neither did Yard, right? And then Yard fought valiantly and, impressed us. So maybe Buatsi does the same thing.
What, Rob?
Fought valiantly is like saying, like, the fat girl's got a really nice personality.
I don't know about that. Sean Porter put on a great performance against Earl Spence and his stock rose.
Yeah, but I'd say that was more than valiant. He actually, some people even had Porter winning it.
Yeah, but those are few and far between.
Or maybe
it's not that few, Matt, right? Like, it's a minority, but it's not a small minority. Watching it live, I scored a 14-13 Porter. Watching it again, I scored it
We're not going to get lost in those weeds.
Even a
all right,
draw.
okay.
I honestly do not care. Moving on to the rest of the card, though. Briefly as possible, Luis Collazo losing against Kuzatilo Apokadorov in a fun fight. Thoughts on this performance from both guys here? Rob, Gary, whoever wants to take it first.
Um,
Rob, did you not see it?
I didn't.
I know there's no UK telecast for this one. I know that.
I didn't think much of Curtis Gio. I'm not even gonna try to say his last name. I mean, there wasn't much there. I just think that
Collazo,
he's a decent fighter. I just think Collazo's best days are behind him. I thought that in the Vargas fight too, but people overlooked that fight because it was a fun scrap where Collazo, beat him up. But he ate a lot of shots too, and you can see the speed wasn't the same, the endurance wasn't the same. He's 38 now, and he can still get paydays if he wants to do that. Like we talked, Hooker needs an opponent, Virgil Ortiz needs an opponent. Okay, there's a former champion, a legitimate guy who was top 10 forever at 147.
Josh Kelly, guys of that nature.
Josh Kelly.
Terrence Crawford.
No, stop.
No.
Why? He needs an opponent.
Yeah, let's not do that. But he can.
I got sad.
I'm sorry, but name another one.
He lost. He's not gonna look. And honestly, this was an IBF eliminator. Like Apokadorov could go off and fight Earl Spence and lose.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
He's better than Ocampo, all right? We can get a better.
And they were. He is. He's better than. Oh, absolutely. No. 100%. That goes without saying. We don't need to go down that.
Marked improvement on IBF mandatories.
Absolutely. However, he's not competitive.
Same result.
Yeah, same result. He's not competitive against Earl Spence. But they mentioned they would take that mandatory, I think, summertime of 2020, right after the Danny fight.
What would have been the Danny fight, yeah.
Obviously, with the timetable of Earl Spence being pushed back at least a couple months, assumingly, God knows when Apokadorov could get that shot. Maybe they do sort of just have him fight Terrence Crawford, I guess. I don't know. Collazo lost. Like, he is in no running to fight Terrence Crawford.
No, it's just being.
I know you're being funny, but I'm now legitimately thinking who is there to fight Crawford? Honestly, because this was in a weird way, an IBF eliminator, but really it was a Terrence Crawford eliminator for Luis Collazo, and he lost. So, what does Top Rank do now since Terrence Crawford post his mandatory Kavaliauskas in December has no one to fight? Gary, Rob, anyone thoughts on that?
Oh, it's going to be Curtilo. I mean, unless Kell Brook or something, but that's what it is. I mean, there's no one else for him to fight.
I'm mad.
And I mean, Spence or whatever will pay him to step aside, and then he'll get paid to fight Crawford. So it's a win-win.
Why don't Al, this savior that I've heard about called Al, why doesn't he let Crawford get his mandatory out of the way and come in and buy him out his contracts and something? And then
I would love that. Hey,
in-house on PBC, and everyone on PBC is making the money.
Rob, if you want to start pushing a Al Heyman buying out Terrence Crawford narrative, I am 100% in favor of that narrative. Because
done it with other fighters, right? Why not take what is considered by some as the number one pound for pound guy, even though he isn't. But.
Now the thing is, I don't know what his deal would be, because his deal. I mean, obviously, people are going to make comparisons to Floyd Mayweather buying out his contract, which I think was for $750,000, right?
Yeah.
But Crawford's making multi-million-dollar disclosed purses per fight on ESPN. To me, it had to be more than what the Floyd Mayweather deal was with Bob Arum back in the day, even though that's crazy to say, but it just respectively, due to inflation, due to the time, the market, it is more. What if that deal was a 10, 15, 20 million upfront sum, and maybe PBC is thinking, do we spend 20 million on getting Terrence Crawford? Again, I don't know if that's the money. I'm just throwing out money. I'm just throwing out a figure there. But it has to be more than what the Mayweather buyout was, which was $750,000, which was
surely they make that
low.
back. surely they make that back. Spence fight, maybe a Thurman fight, maybe a Pacquiao fight. Think of all the fights.
I mean, like I said, I'm going to have an article coming out soon talking about the market and this bubble that might burst. And in large part, that's a concern that this increase in overall expenditures on fighters, on just overall the content of boxing, when you aren't getting the return, it's a long-term issue. Yeah, you can have loss leaders like Canelo and certain guys, but if loss leaders is now an industry norm, that is a massive issue. And I think a Terrence Crawford buyout, getting him probably what his market value would be in this current market, same with an Earl Spence and all these guys fighting, we're talking mega millions comparative to the mid-2000s when those guys were fighting on pay-per-view and HBO. Right? I mean, I would say even though maybe Spence, Porter, Spence, Danny, Spence, Crawford, Porter, Crawford, Danny, all these sort of machinations of matchups, they're all probably making more in guaranteed money than the heyday of Morales, Barrera, Pacquiao fighting on HBO pay-per-view. Right?
For sure.
And it's not an Al Heyman thing. I don't know if the sport can handle that cost long term, but that's beside the point. Short term, I absolutely agree with the narrative that, hey, let's get Terrence Crawford to this side of the street as fast as possible. How do you do that? Buy out his contract. And guys, any thoughts?
I can't. I mean, it depends. The Floyd Mayweather $700 and whatever $1,000 it was like the best deal since they brought Manhattan for like $24 or whatever it was. Like that was insane because he was being offered $12 million at that time to fight Margarito, and he turned it down to buy himself out of that contract because he wanted the Oscar fight, and that took a while to make. But if it's $20 million, there's or anywhere near that, $10 to $20 million. There's no way I was buying him out of that. That I can see. I mean, it's not worth it to him because he can make money on all these other fights. So why would I put up $10 million to make a slightly better fight? You know what I'm saying? It's not worth the risk to me.
And on top of that, it's not like he's just the buyout and he's done paying Crawford. Like
he's still got to pay him.
Pay him for each one of those fights coming up against the Spence, the Porters, the Garcias, which he's going to be asking for a lot, which he would deserve in this current market environment. And again, sort of tapping into how much money it could be, he does have a long-term deal with Top Rank. So you add all those fights up, how much money it is, it's going to be a lot. I'm just curious if they ever go down that road, what information we could find out, because I'm just interested in, obviously, those type of business maneuvers. But guys, digressing from the lack of real options for Terrence Crawford, which we got off from the Abakadorov-Collazo fight. Any other thoughts on the undercard here? I know, Rob, you didn't really see it because it wasn't on UK television or anywhere. Shout out to Top Rank dropping the ball there. But Gary, I know you probably saw all these undercard fights. I gave brief thoughts on them on yesterday's show. What have your any thoughts on Michael Seals, Julian Rodriguez, anyone like that?
I was good to see Julian Rodriguez back. I always want to call him J-Rod. I don't know why, but it was good to see him back. He looked good enough. He looked sharp. You could tell there's some ring rust there, and because he hasn't fought in like 2 years, right?
Is it that
long?
It's been a
while. It's been a while. I don't know what happened to him. I guess promotional issues or managerial issues.
Yep, 2 years. It's been 2 years. Almost to like the month too. It's like actually a little bit less than 2 years, like a year and like 10 months. But yeah, 2 years.
I thought Julian Rodriguez looked well. I thought the main event was great. And I thought all the prospects looked at least reasonably good. Everyone had a great performance except for Max Kellerman. I don't know what his deal is, but there was the thing about Gvozdyk quitting, and then he made another comment that he made on Max on Boxing too, where he said that boxing doesn't deliver as many good events consistently as the other American sports, which is just an insane statement, right? Because baseball is unwatchable for 6 months out of the year.
Yes.
Football, you got the Patriots and the Jets on Monday night. Anyone looking forward to that? Then there's no football for 8 months, and the football's 4 months. So that comment, which he kept saying over and over again, like it was the bumper sticker, makes zero sense at all. There's boxing every week, year round. there's no football, which is the top American sport, for 8 months out of the year or 7 months out of the year. So that comment made no sense. Then there was the Gvozdyk comment. I don't know if he's trying to get himself fired or like none of this made any sense.
I think I can kind of understand what Max was again trying to articulate, which is just the saturation topic of combat sports. That there's a lot of combat sports every weekend. Think about how many events there are every weekend. UFC, boxing, kickboxing, bare knuckle, included all in the mix. It all competes with each other in some way. And how many of those 80, 100 fights every weekend are amazing fights? And then it's that every weekend. Maybe you have 2 or 3 great fights every weekend, maybe 4, maybe 5, if you're lucky. That the large percentage of boxing fights that are televised or streamed are not A, competitive, B, elite level boxing.
But that's true of every sport. But
let me finish. I think making a argument about the sport being oversaturated, how do we fix that, is completely separate from trying to compare it to other sports, because it's hard to compare a sport that is every week and sometimes like Fridays, Thursdays, Wednesdays every week, to compare it to sports that are on for 4 months, 6 months, 9 months out of a year, and that's it, and have complete off seasons where they're not putting on any content. And it's just, to me, that's incomparable for Max to do that. He should have stuck it more with, hey, this is just our industry. We're talking about oversaturation, how there is a lot of content out there that is not great boxing. Let's talk about that. That, to me, is an isolated topic, separated from the analogies to other sports, because they're bad analogies.
They are bad analogies, but Max can't say the oversaturation because ESPN is like numero uno perpetrator of giving us crap boxing.
Absolutely.
I don't care. I love crap boxing. I'd rather crap boxing than no crap boxing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, than no boxing. I'd rather watch their crap that they give you in the UK.
No, that's a really illogical argument. Okay, because it's not a binary. It's not a it's not a binary is probably the best way to phrase it. It's not a binary conversation. It's not a, hey, it's either no boxing or shit boxing. It's, no, we can have bad boxing, we can have no boxing, we can have decent boxing, we can have good boxing, we can have great boxing, we can have high level, like, there's a spectrum to boxing, and we can ask and demand as consumers which one we want. And if we don't get the one we want, then speak out. And media is the same way.
No, I'm speaking out against bad.
But you made it where it's the point of...
I'm speaking out against...
Sorry, but you made it to the point of you either get... I'd rather have bad boxing than no boxing. I think that's not a proper way to frame the argument. I'd rather have good boxing than anything else. And if you're not going to give me good boxing, then I'd rather not have it.
I didn't mean to set up some kind of false dichotomy where there's only bad boxing or...
I know
no
you
boxing.
Didn't actually mean that, but, listeners, have to always... frame conversations as best as we can, and I just, excuse me, I think there's always a defeatist mindset with sports fans, especially boxing fans, and that mentality, I think, plays into it, because I've heard that a lot of times. Like, that's not a new thing that people have said. I'd rather have bad boxing than no boxing. That's always the response to oversaturation. And I think that's a bad response. I think we can, maybe this isn't the show for it, but there is definitely a better way to look at this argument than I'd rather have something than nothing. Rob, I know you've been extra quiet over there.
No, I know what you mean. The more we just accept bad, the more bad we'll get. So I think you have to be... sort of vocal about it. I think in time the public opinion is heard and the certain fights do get made. Again, we're left waiting and waiting and waiting for it, and we maybe get some shit in between, but we'll be typical boxing fans, and when Spence and Crawford gets made, we'll be hyped and looking forward to it, and kind of forget at the time of all the shit that was in between, waiting for the fight to happen. But we can't just put up with crap after crap after crap. But I don't see it that way. I watch everything, but I'm not accepting of certain things. But that's good at the moment, I think.
Well, Rob's gonna love this comment, but like Eddie's smaller cards. I don't want to call them crap cards. Smaller cards.
The next gen cards.
The next gen card. That's what they're called. I couldn't think of the next gen cards. For what they are, for smaller cards, for smaller cost cards, they're usually pretty fun to watch.
Yes.
Right? It used to be like the old school Tuesday night fights, which I don't even know if Matt's old enough to remember. But it's like, okay, it is what it is. It's a low budget card, but the fights are pretty entertaining, and you have some future name value, right? Like I feel like those cards that Eddie puts together, on a shoestring budget over the UK, are decent cards for what they are. It's not like what ESPN gives you when they have boxing in the UK. It's like these cards are. I don't even know any of these guys. I'm not interested in any of these guys. This is tough to watch.
Well, I think the thing is here we've got certain guys like the Bellews, the Brooks, and people like that. It's all coming to an end. So it's about, I guess, the next generation, and obviously next gen. But it's, I don't know. I don't see sometimes you guys are like, oh, who's this guy? This kid's not been on TV yet. He's 21-0, and it's like, wait, he's 21-0 and no one's seen him on TV yet, and things like that. But we're seeing guys from debut until they get to where they get. We've had Joshua from debut. Yeah, he was Olympic gold medalist. Maybe that's slightly wrong, but I've seen like Conor Benn from his debut. We've seen I don't know, and I am invested. Like I don't expect when I see all like the DAZN, what's this fucking trash on DAZN? It's like, well, you've now got a link to the UK fights, but these fights weren't necessarily intended for you. But you're a boxing fan, so maybe you'd like to watch some boxing. But you're going to hate on it because of what it is. Who the fuck is this guy? This guy's I don't know this guy, but I just feel.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying it's not necessarily for that market. There's English guys. The tickets sell. There's people from that area buying tickets for it's an all English fight, or it's an all UK event. It is a UK card. So, but I don't know. If I had easy access to ESPN cards, PBC cards, and they were on, who was it? Someone tweeted it earlier, like, oh, it's a great week for boxing next week. Regis Prograis and Taylor against, and then it goes into Lubin's card, right? Next week. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. People said, oh, there's some fun fights on both. I'm really looking forward to the Regis Prograis and Taylor fight, and then that fight on the PBC card. That's a good fight. I'm looking forward to that. Great like day of boxing, or like from afternoon through to evening, the night. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wish it was that way around for us as well, that I would have like an afternoon through to night rather than nighttime or early, evening through to 4 a.m. in the morning. I'd want to watch all these cards, but we don't necessarily have that. So I don't know. You're going to get good stuff. You're going to get bad stuff. You're going to get, none of these matchmakers put a fight on and they think, oh, that's going to gel well. That's going to be a good fight. And then, oh, fuck, it was poor. Or I don't know. You just got to take it for what it is when it happens and hope the next one's a good one. I don't know.
I very quickly. There's a couple different things I want to address. First off, people in the chat talking about how this is a negative topic. Look, there are issues within the industry that are worth addressing. I think boxing as a whole is doing great. I think everyone knows that. But to not address issues within the industry is just asinine and ignorant. You can be an ostrich, put your head in the sand. I'm not going to be that. Now, to Rob's point about, I'm going to rephrase how you said it because I forget exactly your exact words, obviously. But you said something to the effect of, we just like take the good with the bad. I think something to that effect, right? You said,
yeah.
And I understand that mindset. Obviously, you're far more optimistic about everything than I am.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of people, when they have that mindset, they check out of actually criticizing the product, criticizing the sport, which is healthy. Like, criticizing something that you love is a healthy thing, guys. Like, us on this show.
Yeah, you must love us loads.
I do love you guys a lot. That's why I criticize you guys. And vice versa. Like, there's definitely times Rob has criticized me and how I conduct myself and vice versa. And there's a healthy aspect to that in any dynamic, in any relationship, whether it's...
We will be talking about this bit right now, later on, okay?
Whether it's co-hosts, whether it's friends, whether it's consumers and a company that they're consuming a product from, there's a dynamic there. There's an ebb and flow there. And criticism, constructive criticism, is a very healthy part of that. So, in a sport that we all love, because if you listen to the show, you love boxing probably, right? There are issues within it that I think we all can sort of point out rather easily. Maybe there are some that we can't, that we may have to sort of have a discussion about, that whether or not this is really an issue. But there should be an acceptance that this is allowed, that this conversation, that this discussion about the negatives of boxing, when there are a lot of positives, but the negatives of boxing that are worth addressing, that need to be addressed, and therefore, let's have that discussion as a community, as a fan base, because when we don't have those discussions, when we don't criticize the product, it doesn't get better. That's how we get the dark ages of boxing, a la what everyone said from 2001 to 2010. Everyone criticized, even though there's some great fights there. But there is a healthy aspect to criticism. And to act like that doesn't belong in this space is just ignorant. And I know that wasn't directly to you, Rob, but more broadly just to the mindset of, oh, let's take the good with the bad. I think that's a defeatist mentality. No, let's praise the good and criticize the bad. We can do both. It's not that hard, in my opinion. You know, we can say, oh, look, Beterbiev, Gvozdyk, great fight. Or Beterbiev. I'm trying to get better at it. Beterbiev, Gvozdyk, great fight. How much promotion did it have? You know, like, is Top Rank actually actively trying to make these guys crossover stars in any way?
Can I address that real quick? Because we haven't even talked about it. Matt's favorite prospect and one of the biggest American prospects in the sport is fighting this week against another undefeated prospect, and no one's even mentioned it, right? And I put that on ESPN. It's like, look, Shakur Stevenson is a kid from the biggest market in the country with all-world skills, and no one even knows he's fighting this week.
Time out. You know what's so funny? I was legit going like, man, who the fuck is Gary talking about? Who was fighting this weekend that I can't remember, right? I'm like, no, you know what I was thinking? I'm thinking like, oh, Joe Cordina's on the Taylor undercard. I'm like, is he? I'm like, no, he isn't. I'm like, oh, Shakur Stevenson.
Joey Gonzalez.
You are absolutely right. I completely forgot that fight is this weekend. But then again, this weekend is highly competitive. Bad scheduling.
And Josh Greer Jr. is on that card too.
Ah, that's a good card.
Yeah.
That should be a Friday card. Honestly, like, why is that on a Friday night ESPN card? And leave the Saturday to the Progress Taylor, leave Saturday to the Showtime card, which is going to have more traction and more promotion than you guys, unfortunately, which is crazy to say and think about, but it's probably the truth that the Lubin and Robert Easter doubleheader is going to have more promotion from Showtime, a network with 24 million subscribers in the U.S., compared to ESPN promoting Shakur Stevenson with 87-ish million subscribers in the U.S.
Showtime still got that many?
Stop.
Wow.
They have really good TV shows, man.
Oh, yeah, they must have.
City on a Hill is fantastic. Digressing, though. It's just sad. Shakur Stevenson should be a guy that's talked about way more than what he is. Just from a pure athletic standpoint. Obviously, the not domestic violence, but just the assault case that he had, I think was an issue for them. I don't think they'd realize they didn't know how to adjust to that, in my opinion. And I also don't think that he handled it quite well, to be honest. But
it's easy to adjust to. Don't do it.
No, I mean from a PR perspective. Like,
oh right, yeah,
like they just chose not to talk about Shakur for a while. instead of addressing it and moving on and to keep promoting him, which is what you kind of need to do. And they didn't do that. I think that kind of hurt their mindset on the push of Shakur. It did. It hampered that in some way. It had to. But anyways, digressing.